Hey guys, Andy here coming at you with another Middle Earth Monday. Very excited about this one as we are painting up Merry and Pippin, which are the two last members of the Fellowship that I need to paint up before I get to tackle that beautiful base in next week's video. So this time next week, you'll be seeing the last video in the Fellowship series, and we will have that beautiful scenic base all painted up with all 9 members of the Fellowship, and I literally cannot wait to see it all done, and I hope you guys are excited to see that as well. Of course, when that's all done, I have been taking kind of polls and what interested parties have been mentioning what they would like to see next. And the current kind of lead runner is that I tackle a Pelennor Fields box set, show you guys how to paint some Rohan Cavalry and Theoden and Witch King and those kind of characters like that. So if that's still something you want to see, make sure you reinforce that by putting it in the comments below so I know. If you have any other ideas for what you want to see, also drop it below so I have an idea of the kind of list that I'm working with for future Middle Earth Monday videos. Before I get into today's video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to keep doing what I'm doing. The main benefit for being a member of my patron is, of course, extra content. They get an extra video every single week, so that's 52 extra video years just for them. And they get access to a private Discord server. So if that's something that interests you, there's links to all of that below, so check it out. Also, if you guys are interested in hanging out with me on a week-by-week basis, I have a Twitch stream every Tuesday and Thursday evening between 8 and 10 p.m. Irish time. So if you're curious, jump on over, say hello, get involved, get your hobby done, and have a good time. So, yeah. I think I've said all I need to say before I can start painting Merry and Pippin, so let's jump in. So we are going to start off with Merry himself, one of the bravest hobbits of the bunch, or one of the smartest, I guess. I'm going to start with Orange Jaws Yellow, and this is for his bright and colourful waistcoat. I really do enjoy painting hobbits. The only thing I struggle with a little bit is like trying to make each and every one of them unique, and then also making them look like a cohesive force. I find that really difficult task to do, so I've always struggled to paint my hobbit army, but maybe this will push me on to get a little bit more done. Rattling Grime was used for his trousers. They had this like slate grey kind of brown trousers, so Rattling Grime seemed to be the perfect colour to get that done. Croak Green was used for his jacket. Once again, more natural tones, not kind of, you know, bright and shiny or gaudy. Although hobbits are very colourful, they're not gaudy, if you know what I mean. They're much more natural tones. That's what you want to try and keep at when you're painting them. Basilic Hanum Grey was used for his cape. I definitely think we should normalize going for a walk in capes. Anywhere a hobbit went, they wore a cape. Super cool looking. Gotta respect the cape. Guilliman Flesh was used for his, obviously, face, hands, and feet. Unlike most miniatures you will paint in the world, his feet are on show, quite proudly. So you want to make sure you get a bit of Guilliman Flesh on them as well. I've always said, and I've said in a couple of videos for this series already, that Lord of the Rings miniatures aren't, you know, the best sculpted. They're quite old, they're quite dated. I love them. I think they have so much charm. They're some of my favorite miniatures that have ever existed. I'm not speaking badly about them when I say that. I just mean that they're dated these days. And I always thought that the bases of the model really pushed it up a notch, made it look really cool. And doing this series and leaving the bases just black at the end has been killing me because I always think they don't look very good at the end of the painting video. But I know by the end of next week's video, when they have all of their basings done, that all the models are going to look so much better. So I'm very excited to bring that to you guys and show it to you at the end of next week's video. So I hope you guys are excited to see the end of the series. If this is the first video you've stumbled across, you haven't watched the rest of the series, I've done a video on every member of the Fellowship. From the original metal Fellowship that came out. It was literally the first metal Fellowship that came out when they started doing the models. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I've done the Hobbits in pairs, but every other miniature got a video to itself. And then I'm doing a scenic base that came with the old collectible magazines like 20 years ago. And Mechanica Standard Grey is what I use to highlight that cape. Capes I find to be one of the easiest things to highlight because they just have those natural folds. And all you need to do is put the brighter paint on the higher parts and leave all the creases nice and dark. And you get a fairly decent looking cape. From there, we are going to go over to Lauren Forrest and highlight up his jacket. Same thing again, you're not looking for like total coverage, you're just looking for all the higher areas. Leave anywhere where the shade has kind of settled into nooks and crannies, nice and dark. And even when it comes to his arms and stuff, it's like the top of the arms, and as the cloth curves down underneath his arm, you leave that nice and dark. Evil Sun Scarlet was used to highlight his hair and his little adorable waistcoat. As you can see, I'm just doing little stabbing motions. I'm not trying to get a pure coat of yellow. Obviously in the movie, his waistcoat was much more ornate than you can see in a miniature like this. Hobbits are very proud of their waistcoats. Skavenblight Dinge was used to highlight his trousers. And as you can see, I'm just following very simple and effective steps. It's a contrast, it's a shade the whole model, and then give one coat of layering up, and you're going to get a nicely painted miniature. We're not talking about competition level, but to play through the story of the Ring Bearer's journey, and you want all the correct miniatures, this is a perfectly acceptable way of painting them all up. And if you have a cabinet displaying, you know, your entire Lord of the Rings collection painted to this standard base nicely, it's going to look great. Cadian Flesh Tone was used to highlight his face, hands, and his little feet. Blacked out the base. Added a little bit of Leadbelcher to re-highlight his sword. Just the pommel, crossguard, and blade. Sword gifted to him by Aragorn. And I also did his little buttons with a bit of silver as well. And now this is Pippin. And Pippin is the last member of the Fellowship to paint. Peregrine Took, fool of a Took. And we're going to start exactly the same thing. We're going to do Rattling Grime, same trousers, same kind of colours for his trousers. But other than that, all the other colours basically varied quite drastically from what Merry looked like. Psilocanum Grey was used for his scarf and his little shirt. He does have a jacket, but it's wide open, unlike every other Hobbits who has their waistcoat closed. Ultrabreed's Blue was used for his jacket. Just put a nice dark base coat on the jacket. As you hit it with a brighter colour later on, make it pop. Pippin definitely has some of the brighter colours used for a Hobbit, with his blue jacket and his red cape. Very royal cape. Every other Hobbit was quite muted except his. So Flesh Tear's red was used for the cape. Being very careful not to get in on any other part of the model because it will stain it quite badly. Starting to get somewhere now. Agros Dunes was used for his hair, giving him that mousy kind of browny hair. Even though this is the last member of the Fellowship to paint for this, I think there's 7 or 8 full sets of the Fellowship that Games Workshop released, and I own every single one of them. So this will not be the last time you see me painting a Pippin. Obviously I have the Rohan Pippin and every other Pippin you can think of. The ones being carried by the Uruk-hai scouts. So I can't wait to actually bring all of them to you. Leadbelcher was used for the sword. The only sword of any significance was, of course, Frodo's one. The other 3 swords are just basic iron swords. I'm sure they were of good, solid quality. I'm sure they were quite sharp. Aragorn wouldn't have given them a sword they didn't trust. But they weren't magnificent. Agrek Searchshade once again all over the top. I use Agrek Searchshade as I use that for pretty much all the other members of the Fellowship. So having that little brown tone right in the middle of all the paint schemes pulls them together as a collective group. It definitely helps with that idea of it being, you know, one painting style across the entire set. A bit of corn red to highlight that cape. Obviously being a little bit more careful with the red, as it is a bit more bright and vibrant than the grey in the last one. So if the lines aren't quite as straight, they're a little bit wobbly, it will stand out a little bit more, and we don't want that. I said a little bit, quite a lot there, but let's ignore that. Altiak Blue was used to highlight his cape. His jacket, apologies. Talking about capes and then my mind's gone into cape mode. So yes, Altiak Blue on his jacket. Took me a while to find the correct blue, the one that I wanted to. Some of the reference pictures of ones that other people have painted made the blue jacket really bright. And I don't think it was as bright as they seem to make it. But they're overemphasizing it to basically make it have a really nice paint job. Stormfront Fur once again for highlighting the trousers. The series was supposed to take 10 weeks in total. Unfortunately, we're in the 10th week now, so we missed a video due to Indomitus Week. So I should have been working on the base in this one, but it's okay. 1 week behind is not too bad, so the whole series for the Fellowship is going to take 11 weeks. Cadian flesh tone to highlight the face and skin. They have very similar complexions, all the Hobbits. I did go back with a touch of Kislev flesh and highlight their faces a little bit more later on. Nothing that I would bother showing on camera, not a necessary step. Just add a little bit more of a touch. And I just hit the kind of tips of nose, tips of cheeks, chin, those kind of areas. Back to Lead Belcher to highlight that sword again. Obviously the brown shade, the aggro sword shade will darken it down quite a lot. And that's not exactly what we want for a Hobbit sword. Mournfang Brown was then used to highlight his hair. And with that, we have Merry and Pippin of the Fellowship painted up and ready for their bases next week. And like I said, these are quite different in terms of color palettes, but very simple and effective jobs. Give us 2 more painted miniatures from our collection. And obviously I'm not adding to my Lord of the Rings collection a lot these days, as they don't bring out a lot of miniatures. So finishing off a Lord of the Rings model has a certain kind of amount of satisfaction, because you are shortening your backlog on the models. You're getting through your pile, which is kind of cool. So I really enjoyed the series so far. I hope you guys did as well. Here's the scenic base that I'll be tackling next week, and I hope you're excited for that. Okay guys, and there we have it. Merry and Pippin painted up. Pippin? Merry and Pippin. I don't think we should call them that. Merry and Pippin are now finished and ready to see a tabletop, or in this case a scenic base, which I'll be working on next week, of course. I have made a little mistake in this series with some of the models, and I'd be very curious to know if anybody will spot it. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to see if anybody notices. It took me till the last video to realize what I'd done, so we'll see what happens. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like. Ask me anything you want in the comments below. I'll get back to each and every one of you guys. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, like 2/3 of the people watching aren't, please take 2 seconds out of your day and hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you for next week's Middle Earth